All right. So today I really wanted to start kind of uh, looking into our heart and do a few heart centered meditations, kind of looking a little bit at the science of the heart. Um, and one of the things that to me is fascinating about the heart is many of us might feel like the heart is, it's a pump. It's in the middle of our chest, and it helps bring blood and blood and oxygen and nutrients to our body through pumping our blood, and it takes the blood that has been used, and it circulates it back to the lungs, and the lungs can bring back oxygen. And that, from our brain we're communicating with our heart, and that the communication is sort of like maybe one way. Maybe some of you have the sense that your heart is actually communicating with your brain, but there's a lot of new research in the heart, and so today is sort of like an introduction. And as we go on, it'll probably be 4 or 5 sessions, is what I imagine. Maybe anywhere between 3 to 5, let's say 3 to 5 sessions of kind of diving into the heart. What's fascinating about some of the connections with the brain is really talking about the heart brain connection, and the communication that the heart has with the brain and the brain has with the heart. You might be familiar with the communication that the brain has with the heart, especially through our nervous system, our parasympathetic and our sympathetic nervous system. And not to bore you or belabor this, but in terms of looking at these communications, I really want you all to be very familiar with the language of the nervous system, especially the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. At this point, having a sense of, what the sympathetic nervous system is doing, the fight or flight response, and what the parasympathetic nervous system is doing, the rest and digest response, and how these are working in balance. Right, that many people sort of even maybe imagine that one is better than the other, and it's not a better than or less than or worse than, but it's a systemic, it's a balance that needs to occur in the body. And again, right, tomorrow or the next day, we will be getting into this sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system balance and resiliency, because it's so important to the heart. It's very important to the heart. Well, we know about the communication with our nervous system with the heart, but believe it or not, there's actually more communication. There's more communication that the heart sends to the brain than that the brain sends to the heart. There's more communication that the heart sends to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. All right. And if you kind of like look at the 4 major areas of this type of communication. Okay. There's one type of communication. The heart actually does secrete hormones. So it's a biochemical communication. So the heart can secrete hormones that can affect our brain. Right? There's a neurological communication. The heart actually sends neurons up to our brain. So it's neurons that come from the heart that go to the brain, what we call afferent. actually information, as opposed to information going just from our brain to our heart. That would be efferent, sort of going away from the brain, and our brain is telling our heart what to do. There's a lot of neurons that are actually going from the heart to the brain, from the heart to the brain. So imagine it being a two-way communication as opposed to a one-way communication. That our brain is actually really, really not only informing our heart, but our heart is absolutely informing our brain and telling our brain what's going on. Right? There are what we call physical, right? Physical, sort of biophysical communications, and the more we actually do research into this, the more fascinating it becomes. But imagine that, as the heart beats, right? So you might actually feel it. If you just, as you're listening to me, you might not feel it, but maybe you actually put your attention in your chest, and now all of a sudden you get a little feeling of the heart beating. You get a little pulsation, like, some people, depending on your blood pressure, you might actually feel your head sort of bouncing up and down. When you're falling asleep, if you're sleeping, sometimes you might actually hear the pulsating of your heart, and like your ears against the pillow or something like that, and you go, okay, that's a pulse wave. All right, so you're at that wave. That's a frequency. That's a wave frequency, right? That's a I am in the bathtub. Okay, and here's a pulse wave. When you put your hand on your like radial nerve going down, and you feel the right. That's an actual pulse. That's a biophysical form of communication, going from the heart to the brain. And the more we're understanding this is actually connected with a pulse wave, right? As our heart beats, we are increasing and decreasing the pressure in our chest cavity. And we're also, as our heart beats and whatnot, we're also affecting the fluid in the cells that are actually going up into our brain. So when the heart beats, pulses of fluid actually move in and out of our brain. Right? And the more that we're understanding, the more that we're actually understanding that pulse wave, the more we're seeing that this is actually a very important form of communication, because it's sort of like setting a resonance in the fluid system of our body. And the last one that many people don't think about, but I think is actually very important, is what we call energetic communication. Energetic communication, right? And that is the electromagnetic field of the heart. Because the heart is beating, the heart has got many electrical nerve cells in it. And as it pulsates and generates that pressure, it generates an electromagnetic field. This field has actually been studied with using numerous different techniques, using numerous different methods of input. Okay, if you've ever had an EKG done, an electrocardiogram, right? That is, how they can put these electrodes in various parts of your body, right? That's not measuring the pulse wave. That's measuring the electrical activity of your heart from that area in your body. Okay, so they put those little stickers on you, and usually they'll put it on top of your heart. It's actually very similar to getting an EEG to look at like seizure activity in the brain. And so, they can place these little, electrodes that perceive electrical information at different parts of the body. And if you ever had them, right, they can place them on your legs, your arms, and it's still picking up that electrical information. And that's actually picking up the electrical information of your beating heart, of the beating heart. Okay. And as the tools have actually gotten more and more sensitive, they can also look at the electromagnetic field, and they've used these things called, electromagnetic field sensors. They've used these things called squids, which are superconducting quantum interference devices. So imagine that, right? Imagine using very sensitive instruments such as these superconducting quantum interference devices, and EKG machines, and also looking at what they call the magnetic cardiogram, to actually get a magnetic image of your heart. Okay. They've figured out that the heart's electrical field is about 60 times greater in amplitude than the electrical activity of the brain, and that it is 100 times stronger, and that they have used these superconducting quantum interference devices, and have actually been able to measure the electromagnetic field of the heart 3 feet away from the physical body. 3 feet away from the physical body. Okay. Imagine that, right? Imagine this thing Okay, so let's find a comfortable posture. A posture you feel relaxed yet alert. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, or just having a soft downward gaze. And taking 2 or 3 deep breaths. And with each in-breath, bringing in the present moment, and with each out-breath, seeing if you can relax your body ever so slightly more, feeling fully supported by whatever surface you're on. And starting by bringing your attention to your anchor, your resource, a place you feel like you can direct your attention to, that you can come back to over and over and over again as your mind or body wander. That you come back to this place with no judgment, with loving kindness for yourself, with compassion, holding yourself in love, like you were holding a tender child that was just born. Imagine holding yourself in that same love. And as you're bringing your attention back to your resource, back to your anchor, every time your mind wanders or your body wanders, coming back and holding yourself in that love as you are holding a child. And bringing into your awareness your heart. This structure in the middle of your chest, beating 60 to 100 times per minute. Pulsating the blood through your body. And just saying hello to your heart. Saying, I see you. Even sending some love and gratitude and appreciation to your heart for everything it has done for you your entire life. That as you have exercised, your heart has increased in beats to help pump blood to areas it needs to go. That as you rest, the heart rests and slows down. As you bring your attention to your heart, do you notice it pulsating in your chest? The slightest sensation of a rhythm. You might notice pulsations in your hands or feet, in your thumb. You might notice pulsations into your head, behind your eyes, in your neck. As you're sending love and gratitude and appreciation to your heart, noticing where in your body do you feel your heart beating? How far away do you feel the pulsation from the actual heart? And as you feel this physical pulsation as best you can, if it's difficult for you, maybe placing a hand or two over your heart and feeling the pulsation of your heart on your hand. And now in your mind's eye, imagine the energy that your heart transmits beyond your physical body, at least 3 feet away from your body in all directions. A sphere of energy holding you through your pulsating heart, in front, to the right and left of you, behind you, going all the way down past your pelvis, beyond your head. A sphere of energy emanating from your heart as you feel the physical pulsations, taking a deep breath, sending love and appreciation to your heart for everything it has done, Maybe even saying a few words of gratitude. Thank you, heart, for all you have done for me in this lifetime. Thank you for all you will continue doing for me. Thank you. Sitting in that energy, emanating from your heart, surrounding you, feeling the pulsations in your body, sitting in gratitude and love for your heart and everything it has done. Simply being present with your heart. And now bringing your attention back to your resource, back to your anchor. And as we bring this meditation to a close today, see if you can direct some loving kindness and gratitude to your heart throughout the day. See if you can notice the electromagnetic field that is emanating from your heart, even though you might not be able to see it. And taking 2 or 3 deep breaths, feeling your feet on the ground, your thighs in your chair or whatever surface they're on. Opening your eyes if your eyes were closed. Reorienting yourself to your room and surroundings. And just taking a moment to reflect on this practice today.